Monday to Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. on FMR.
Well, a key focus for business in South Africa at the moment is obviously energy reduction, as we have consistent load shedding, even though it has declined to stage 2 over the last few weeks, as well as the integration of renewable energy sources for a more environmentally friendly future. It's part of the ESG focus. It's part of just being able to operate sustainably in an economy that is struggling under the weight of Eskom's failure. And one company that has been at the forefront of this is Tsebo Solutions Group, which recently partnered with Sun City to find out more about how companies should be approaching this. I'm joined now by Tsebo's Melusi Maposa. Good evening, Melusi, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Michael. Thank you for having me on the show.
Now, Tsebo is one of the largest Pan-African integrated workplace management solutions providers. Can you just provide us an overview of your approach to sustainability and its significance in today's business landscape in South Africa?
Thank you for that question, Michael. So we are a 52-year-old business and a homegrown South African business that has been in continuous operation since April 1971. Now, you don't get to be 50 plus years old without learning a couple of tricks along the way on how to be sustainable and how to be durable. So sustainability is built into the DNA of our business. The key thing is that we are in the B2B services business. We are a very asset-light business. In fact, we have little to no fixed assets. The primary asset we have is our people. So we take a very long-term view on bringing people into the organization. We're very selective around who we bring in, and then we give people career paths in the organization. As you've alluded to, we are an integrated workplace management business, and in our industry, staff churn is a big one. So in order to be durable and sustainable, we've got to be able to retain core skill over a multi-year period. And that's how you transmit organizational culture. That's how you transmit business principles around sustainability, around how to care for the environment, around how to care for our clients. And the first thing we do is to care for our employees. And then that drives a whole host of initiatives after that.
Placing humans at the center is really what I like to hear. You know, human capital is probably the most important in the capital stack. We often talk about the capital stack from a financial perspective, but I think it is that human lens, Melusi. And Tsebo was, recently involved in a private equity transaction. Well, I say recently, I think it was probably about 7 years ago that Wendell became a major shareholder. So it just shows you a lot of the smart money recognizing exactly what Tsebo has been doing over the last 50-odd years. This partnership with Sun City really showcases your holistic approach to sustainable practices. Can you just talk to the specific details about the solar PV system project that you worked on with Sun City and its impact on both the resort and the environment?
Fantastic. So it's the outcome of a 4-year journey, Michael, that we've been on with Sun City. We initially brought on board to help with the operations and maintenance of the engineering equipment base. Now, it might not be immediately intuitive, but Sun City is actually a very complex engineering operation. So if you take infrastructure like the value of the waves, making sure that the waves are predictable, that they're not too soft and not too violent, and they're safe for the kiddies.
Yeah.
That requires significant pumping infrastructure just to get that going. And then you have 15 plus pools scattered all over the place. So there's very complicated waterworks there. The civil engineering around the waste, the electrical infrastructure around keeping the air conditioning in the room going on, keeping the gambling machines on, because when you don't have that, you actually don't have a casino resort type business. So it's a very engineering intense operation in terms of civil engineering, electrical and mechanical engineering. And we were on a journey to help augment their capacity from an operations and maintenance capability across those dimensions of engineering. We undertook a consulting exercise to look into their energy use patterns to try and figure out how they could start to optimize the energy that they are drawing from the grid. And this predates the current surge in load shedding. So that at that point was just a business efficiency exercise to say, look, this is how much energy you use. This is where in the resort you are using it. And these are the times that you use it. And if you start to do certain things differently, we can find savings for you operationally. So we did that. And in the context of that exercise, then mapped up a chain that says, we've now made you more efficient based on what you've got without too much capex investment. But here's a long-term view in order to further lower your operating costs from an energy perspective. And then when load shedding hit, it then created this impetus that now it's not just about cutting back on your cost. It's actually about creating certainty on the ability to operate, to keep the business open so you can trade throughout the period. So that then drove the second thing of saying, let's design a solution. And the first phase of that solution that we've gone with is a 1.4 megawatt solar PV installation. It's roughly 2,300 odd panels on the roof of the Sun City complex. And that links to a whole inverter battery array. Right. And it's quite a sizable thing. To give you an example, that's the equivalent energy consumption of about 350 odd average houses in South Africa. And that is what that system is capable of powering. That's phase one. Phase two would be to expand that to about 13 to 15 megawatts. And that will be sufficient to fully power the resorts, which requires roughly 11 megawatts. So we are on a journey. We've got some successes, but we're looking forward.
Very interesting. And as you say, I mean, regardless, even if we were operating in an environment where we had full security of energy supply 24/7, it just makes business sense to be more efficient because energy comes at a certain cost. So if you can do more with less, I mean, that just makes sense. And you've achieved a remarkable 200 million rand reduction in energy usage for your clients. And then over and above that, you think about, well, how can we start thinking more long-term about becoming energy independent? And these kind of solar PV with battery energy storage and inverter projects are exactly the way to do it. What were some of the challenges? I mean, you've mentioned the difficulty of operating in such a complex engineering environment. What were some of the challenges you faced in this first phase of the project that might now inform how you roll out subsequent phases?
So, Sun City is out in the sticks, Michael, and I think we forget how far it is from Gauteng. What you're looking at as part of this ESG journey is also to support Sun City's own requirements in terms of sourcing from within their community, local to their site. And this is not just procuring stuff. It's around, can I find the skills in the vicinity of Sun City? And if I can't find the skills, can I create the skills? So we've had to go out into the local communities, identify small organizations that we could work with, upskill them. We've had to hire people from the local community, bring them into our organization and train them up, but then also resource those teams with expertise that we've then deployed in there to create this hybrid environment of some centralized expertise with local capacity to execute. That's been important to Sun City as an organization. It's part of their corporate priorities. It's also important to us. As I said, our primary asset is people. So that has been a challenge in terms of making sure that you've got the capacity to execute in the environment. And because we've trained the people in phase one, we are better placed to leverage those people as we expand the project. So finding the skills, keeping them in that area has been a challenge. And then the scale of the project being where it is, right? So we still have to get the panels from Gauteng to Sun City. There's a lot of logistics involved, a lot of handling of the materials. And there's been some lessons learned there that we are looking forward to applying in the next phase.
We know that, prior to the invasion by Russia of Ukraine, that costs were trending downwards in the renewable energy space. And then we did see something of a supply crunch and a multiple array of different factors. It's not just the Russian invasion of Ukraine, but that was certainly something of a catalyst that started to increase prices of components. What are you seeing on that front? And is there room to start really focusing on more local supply of things like solar panels, some of the components for the inverters? I know it's a big policy plank of Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Ibrahim Patel, while some argue against it, saying we just can't compete with the likes of the producers in the East, specifically China. Do you have a view on that, on what we could be doing to help use projects like this to further stimulate local procurement and local economic growth?
Interesting, you mentioned those global macro events, and one of the interesting things that we've experienced is that we've got microchips that go into some of these devices that are, strangely enough, before the invasion were sourced largely from the Ukraine, and we experienced obviously sourcing constraints when the environment changed with the war in that place. And this is one of those things that we've had to be resilient on. If you can't get it from the Ukraine, where else could you get it from?
Yeah.
But the whole game with electronics is really, it's a scale and it's a volume game. If you want to be able to to have it at the lowest price point, you've got to produce in the biggest possible volume. And I think there are countries that are better placed in terms of producing simple panels and inverters and everything else than we are. Where maybe we have the opportunity to really excel is to be the best at the services of actually putting those together, integrating them as efficiently to deliver a solution to the client, because we do have a sizable base of talent, of skills, unemployed graduates that don't need much in order to become competent with these electronic systems. So that's an area that, off the top of my head, is an opportunity to create the skills in order to be able to execute these projects efficiently, maintain them efficiently, and operate them efficiently.
Yeah, as you said, those are the skills that you sought to acquire and also build very close to the resort where you are operating. And just lastly, Melusi, if you look at some of the lessons learned, and if you're a corporate who hasn't really started thinking about this road of energy efficiency, of maybe greater sustainability and incorporating renewable energy sources with battery storage and the way the technology is evolving, could you share some advice on how to start? Where's a good place to start taking that first step on this road to a far more resilient, sustainable future in your operating model?
Thank you for that question, Michael. The starting point is to always have visibility of what you are consuming by the way of energy. And that means a good grip up to, the minute view of this is the energy that goes into your offices, into your production facilities, into your mines. And you want to have granular visibility as in how much of the energy I consume goes into aircon, how much goes into lighting, how much goes into heating. And once you've got that visibility, the next question to ask is there a way to use it more efficiently? And it's simple things like making sure that aircons are switched off when people leave the offices, lights are switched off automatically at certain points. That in itself gives you a certain level of savings. After that, you start to look at easy to do projects. So these are things like green energy efficient appliances, microwaves in the offices, fridges, coffee machines, LED lighting. So there's a certain level of very low investment that you make in retrofitting your operations that gives you benefit. The next step after that, you start to look at slightly bigger, slightly more involved projects. So it could be then, that's the point that you start looking at, do I need batteries with inverters? Can I complement that with some PV? Because there are challenges of not having PV, which is the fact that you actually add to the demand on the grid when power comes back. Batteries need to immediately start recharging, which actually increases the load on the grid. So that's why you do need to have PV and to have grid-tied systems. So when you get to that level, you can also phase out these investments, as in you don't need to cover 100% of your energy requirement from day one. You could choose to cover part of the load, and it's the light load, which is usually the office load that you can take off immediately. And then you phase that into bigger parts of your plant as the business case gets better. Now, we do have a window period, obviously, over the next 2 years that we've got the accelerated Section 12B tax incentive that we can make use of as businesses to recover the cost of outlaying these renewable systems. So we don't have a long window within which to think. So we have to think, and then we have to execute as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and one can't tell whether or not that will be extended, but given what the finance minister has been saying about how tight the budget is, one certainly can't bank on that. So use it while it is available, Section 12B. Melusi, Maposa, thank you very much. A great insight into Tsebo Solution Group's partnership with and collaboration with Sun City, and great advice for businesses on how to start thinking far more strategically about their energy efficiency and how they start to phase in these kinds of costs over time. Take care.